We are live. Let's give it a minute for the stream to breathe. Make sure we have all of our platforms included in tonight's discussion. All right, and looks like we are good. Welcoming everyone to another installment of the Orange and Blue View. I am one of your hosts, Ron White. On that side of me is my partner in crime. You know him as Dylan Von Arks. Dylan, how are you doing today on this nice Saturday?
Doing pretty good. I have some friends in town this weekend, so we've been hanging out a little bit, but gotta take a break from them so I can talk with my friends here at Mile High Huddle.
Yeah, been a little busy weekend for me as well. Just hanging out with some friends I haven't seen in a while. So it's good weather here in Georgia too. So again, yep, just like you, taking a break to talk to my friends about my favorite sport and my favorite team, the Denver Broncos. So it should be a great discussion here. Let's see who we got in the chat coming in. Got David Youngkin coming in with the super chat. Thank you, David. He says, "Evening, everyone. Hope everyone is having a great day." We hope you're having a nice day too, David. And thank you for coming in. We appreciate you chiming in as always, my man. All right, and let's see what else we got. We got Todd Osendorf coming in saying, "What's up, Ron, Dylan, and Broncos country?" Hey, Todd, what's up with you, man? Hopefully, everything is going well on your end. Good to see you. Good to see you in the chat. Let's see who else we have coming in with some hellos. We got Kevin Gray coming in saying, "What's up, Ron, Dylan, and Scott? Big Mile High salute to Broncos country, Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life." Thank you, Kevin, for coming in. We appreciate you, my man. All right, let's see who else we have coming in. Got Mike Woodward. Evening, everyone. Evening to you as well, sir. Thank you for hopping in and joining us. Appreciate you. And then we got String Guy coming in saying, "Good evening, all." Well, good evening to you as well, sir. And hopefully you are doing well. So, guys, we're going to get to, of course, all of your questions, comments, as relates to quarterback and some of the draft prospects. But we want to take tonight, or at least some time tonight, to kind of do a recap and look at how the Broncos did in free agency. So we're going to go through a few of the players that the Broncos newly signed Denver Broncos, and also some of the in-house re-signings as well. Kind of give some grades on those to see how they would fit the team, and then kind of provide our overall grade on that as well. So I'll actually kick it off to you, Dylan, first on who do you have, at the front as far as a good signing or maybe not so good signing, and then how would you grade that particular player?
Yeah, so my first player is the safety from Miami, Brandon Jones. After the release of Justin Simmons, that role for roaming safety needed to be filled because you can't just have, well, PJ Locke was a free agent. Caden Stearns, unreliable. JL Skinner, don't know what he's, capable of yet. So they needed someone back there that's going to hopefully be a difference maker. And I think Brandon Jones can come in and make an immediate impact. He's not going to be Justin Simmons. I think we don't want to set the bar too high there. He's only in his fifth year,
Yep.
and but he's been great all around. He's actually very interestingly, he gets a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think just tempering expectations. I think I'd give it a solid B. But I'm excited to see him in this defense.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was I was glad when they signed Brandon Jones, and you also what you mentioned is perfect. And also you have to think about they signed him for the fraction of the cost
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah.
well. Um, Justin Simmons was getting very expensive, right? And that's part of the reason he's probably still out there right now, just because of his asking price. So now you have Brandon Jones coming in. That's, like you said, he's not going to be Justin Simmons. I don't think anyone's going to be a Justin Simmons, but he does have some of those traits that he can hold up well in coverage. And so I think it's a very solid signing for Denver. That's a good one. All righty, let's see. So I'm actually going to get DTR here because DTR actually is helping me with mine. Thank you, DTR, for coming in. He says, the Roach signing should help with our porous run defense, but it would still be a good move to find another defensive lineman or defensive end who will find the quarterback. Yes, DTR. So again, I just mentioned that leads into my first one, which is Malcolm Roach. And you actually just outlined the reasons here. The run defense was just god awful for Denver last year. I think we've all seen it on film where they couldn't stop a nosebleed. It was terrible. So you bring in this run defender, and according to Pro Football Focus, he had the best run stop rate of any interior defensive lineman in the NFL last year. So that should help you. And he does have that strong upper body strength where he can gain leverage inside the gap. So using that one arm to hold off the offensive lineman while trying to use it to control that lane, which is great. And for him, it would be nice to get maybe a little bit of pass rush, but of course that's not his thing, right? They brought him in to shore up the D line and to stop the run, particularly in the middle of the field. So that was, and you got him for a reasonable deal. I think the contract's about like 2 years, $7 million or somewhere around there. So I thought it was a reasonable contract and a player of need. And I give that, as far as my grade, I give that a solid A minus. I think, again, they addressed a position of need, helping to shore up that run defense. Yeah, maybe some pass rushing, Billy, would have been nice, but again, that's not the main reason you're bringing him in here. So I think it's going to pay some great dividends here for Denver.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the run defense for the Broncos has been terrible for a couple years now, and this year in particular was just dreadful. And it would be nice to get some stops in the run game and force whatever quarterback they're facing to throw the ball at them more, even though they got slice and dice anyway you could last season. But just taking away some element of an offense, whether it's pass or run, and if we could stop the run, I'm just sick of games getting grinded out from the other team, especially when they have a lead and you can't even force them to pass at that point. And I think Roach is a fantastic signing, and like you mentioned, here we'll probably need someone else to get after the passer. But if we can plug up that run game, that's going to be a big help to the whole defense and the secondary in particular.
Yeah, and it's confounded with the fact you can't stop the run. Again, the edge group they're not elite at all. And then on offense, the Broncos can't find a steady rhythm when it comes to the run themselves.
Yeah.
So you have all of these, got to have all of these issues. And again, with this signing, at least one of those, hopefully, can be shored up. But I'm going to mention or bring up here Todd, because Todd brings up a good point. And then actually I'm going to follow up with another one. That he says that QB pressure is key and the Broncos have no pass rush. Yep, big problem, as we just mentioned. And then also, to piggyback on that, not to impress with Baron Browning, and I think Sanders switching to edge is another mistake. Yeah, and Todd, I'm right there with you in the sense of I've always been saying that the edge group for the Broncos, they're some of all their parts. You don't have a Von Miller on this team, or an Hassan Reddick or a Bosa, right? Where you can just say, "Hey, guy, go get your quarterback," and they can and then the opposing offenses have to account for that. You don't have that person. So again, that's where we look to the draft, right? Of Broncos can go and find a solid pass rusher, an elite pass rusher, to kind of help out with that edge group. And yeah, your point here on Sanders. Yeah, I'm with you. I hate when they switch player positions. I just I'm not the fan. It's you draft this player to be in this position, have him grow and develop in that position. Um, and Sanders is coming off. It's going to take time. As an inside linebacker, they have to think quick on their feet, and they kind of have to know specific calls and stuff at the line. So it's again, it's very cerebral in the sense, and that's going to take some time. But I'd rather him kind of grow and develop into that, because again, that's kind of why they brought him in, as opposed to, hey, let you go be an edge guy. And again, just learning a different position. I'm just not a fan of. But yeah, great point here, Don.
Yeah, Sanders is going to need to spend some time in the cafeteria because he is entirely too small to be coming off the edge. Like in college, he could get away with it a little more, but against these big boys in the NFL, it's just not going to cut it. And like you mentioned, Ron, it just makes sense to keep him at inside linebacker and develop him like your defensive coordinator is supposed to do, or that's why you hire those guys to work those kinks out. And taking him away from inside linebacker after his first season, I would have at least waited till after this year to say, okay, hey, maybe we need to make a change and we'll put him on the edge and beef him up. But it's just an odd decision. And yeah, with Browning, he's flashed a lot, and I really like, but that's what it's been, his flashes between the injuries, and then you also got to factor in Broncos have been playing from behind a lot, so it's hard for anyone, and not that any of the guys that we have are like these all-star edge rushers, but it's really hard to shine when your team's down so often, and that's why you see teams like the Chiefs, their defense, I mean, in particular, is really great this year, but in years past, build up like a 2-score lead and say, all right, just get after the quarterback. Don't even worry about trying to stop the run, because they know they have to get in a shootout with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, it'll be interesting to see kind of what becomes of that with Sanders. Again, I don't, like you said, yeah, he has to beef up, pack on the LBs to hang in that edge group, but we will see. Again, thank you, Todd, for coming in. That's a great point here. All righty, let's see who else we have in the chat. Got William Catalano coming in. Thank you, sir. He says, "Did anyone catch Nick's on Coward?" I did see a clip.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the whole interview, but I believe it was the clip where he was talking about his interaction with Peyton, and I believe Peyton asked him about his shoe size. I did see that, so I thought that was funny. So kind of alluding to that sense of humor there. But yeah, I mean, Nick's, from some of the interviews just as a whole I've seen, looks like a pretty solid guy. Willing to come in and learn under Sean Payton, and we will see. But again, the more closer we're approaching to the draft, Dylan, I'm thinking, again, it may not be at pick 12, but the Broncos still may end up with Nick somehow, maybe through a trade back or something. But I have a feeling that Nick's is going to be, I think that's going to be the pick at some point. Again, and we've mentioned got to draft a quarterback at somewhere. you have to draft one at somewhere. Again, Nick's looks like he's possibly the favorite here, but like I said, we'd be good with Penix. Take a late round flyer on a Rattler, right? But the quarterback definitely has to be a priority here for Denver.
Yeah, he was. I watched the whole interview, and he seems very buttoned up, very mature. which he should be. He's been in college a little longer, which is not a knock. He's got a lot of starts. That's great. That's all well and good. But yeah, he seems not like a real rah-rah kind of guy.
Right.
And obviously you can lead without that. I like to see a little more fire, but I mean, you do see that on the field. It's just, in an interview, very buttoned up, very, just like I said, mature. So, I think he could be the quarterback for the Broncos. I don't see it at 12, personally. I know there's a lot of people who are big fans of him, and I understand they like his traits, his processing, and what have you. I think there's a little delusion on how high he's going to go just because he is a quarterback, and I get that. Like, quarterbacks tend to go higher than they necessarily should. I see him as like a late first round to like early second round kind of guy. But that's just my opinion on him.
Yeah, and to even say more here, William, thank you for coming back in. Narek said hardly any teams are that high on Knicks in the first round. Yeah, again, I think that is the sentiment that Knicks is going to be. Maybe look at him second round, maybe mid to late second round, and Penix probably late second round, maybe even third. So that's the buzz I'm hearing from those quarterbacks. But again, it at least that's their grade. When the scouts and when you look at the league as a whole, that's their grade or reading on them. But if there's that run, which we're expecting that run, now with JJ McCarthy being, the one as the fourth potential quarterback going in that top 10, who's going to be the fifth? And you may have some teams try to, come up to make sure they can select it, possibly. But again, I just think with what we're seeing in the grade and how you evaluate them, that those two, again, Knicks more so. I would say Dylan, I would choose Knicks before Penix. Again, I think it's going to be Knicks as that mid to late second rounder, and then Penix late second, early third.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. Looks like we have some stars here from our good friend Michael.
Michael Ronquillo coming in. Thank you, sir. As always, we appreciate you, my man. Says, good evening, Ron and Dylan on Orange and Blue View. Go Broncos. Again, Mikey, thank you for coming in every Saturday. I think almost every show here.
Oh, yeah.
We appreciate you as always. It's just like I said, you coming in, helping out in the chat, supporting. It means a lot, my man. Thank you very much.
And we have another quick one here from our other good friend, Lawrence Rivera.
Rivera, what's up, everyone? What's up with you, sir? Thank you for coming in. Hopefully you're doing well, my man. Appreciate it.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. All righty. So, Dylan, I guess we can go to the next re-signing or signing that you have free agency. Who's next on your list there?
Well, little more of a bummer. Oh, well, I don't want to say bummer. I don't want to he's not dead on arrival or nothing, but inside linebacker Cody Barton, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks and Washington Commanders. Not super inspired by his play necessarily, and he's here. I believe I have this pulled up. His PFF grades from last year. He was graded 53.9 overall with a 43.9 run defense, 61 pass rush, and 66 coverage. So his best is coverage, but not great. Maybe you could attribute that to the Jack Del Rio defense. He's not a defensive coordinator that we'd like to have back in Denver. I know we had him a while back. But the best part of his game is in pass coverage. So that's definitely something we hope to develop, and maybe we see better in the see what Vance Joseph could get out of him. We'll see if he could utilize him properly. But overall, I think this signing, if I'm being, I'll be nice and call it a C minus. I feel like I could go lower. It's not an amazing signing, but it's depth to that room, and we'll see if his signing means that Drew Sanders does go to edge.
Yeah, when I saw this signing, at first I was excited. I was like, okay, because I do have a special place in my heart for inside linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're, heart and soul of the. I mean, people can say edge, obviously, safety, corners, but I like inside linebackers, and the Broncos have not had like that dynamic inside linebacker for a while. So this was even before I looked at some of the tape of Cody Barton. I'm like, okay, cool, we got one. We can maybe, get him to be that coverage guy. And I looked at some tape. I'm like, let me kind of slow my roll here.
Pretty ugly, yeah.
But I would say, I think to your point on the coverage, yeah, I think I did see that flash at times on the film. But I do agree with you in the sense that I attribute a lot of his, I guess I wouldn't say lack, because I mean he's talented, but I think some of his woes, if you will, to that defensive scheme of Jack Del Rio. I just didn't think the scheme fit him that well. He did look a little bit lost out there at times. It wasn't, he didn't put his best foot forward at times. Again, there were some flashes. There were some, plays that make you go, okay. And I think that's, part of the reason. I think Denver's, taking that potential, that high upside to see what they maybe can do. Maybe under this Vance Joseph scheme, he maybe can rise. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, being next to Alex Singleton, let's see what happens at the inside linebacker group. Alrighty. So my next re-signing, PJ Locke. So I love the fact that the Broncos were able to re-sign PJ Locke. I think PJ Locke deserved this contract. I mean, last season, 53 total tackles, 2 forced fumbles, the 3 sacks. It's fun to see him on, on those blitz plays, with that safety blitz. It's fun to see him. Obviously, that key defining game sealing interception when we were there for the Green Bay game. It was again, him coming in, supplanting Kareem Jackson. It was such a great move, and I just think he could even have even a better year this year. He understands the system, and even with the contract. I mean, the contract was a 2-year, $7 million contract as well. So you're able to get him or re-sign him or maintain him, keep him for a reasonable price. So with that, given his play, him coming in, stepping in, I give this an A. I think it was a very good move on Denver, and it's going to be interesting to see him with Brandon Jones, Patrick Surtain, and letting this young secondary just blossom.
Yeah, that should be an interesting young tandem back there in the secondary. Yeah, PJ, I mean, you could argue he helped kick off that 5-game win streak, sealing that game against Green Bay. And yeah, it'll be good to have him back, and he'll be starting the full season in this system for the second year, giving him a leg up, hopefully. And it's just nice to have guys that I at least I feel like we can trust him for the most part, especially with Simmons gone. It's just a familiar face in there, and I do think it'll be PJ Locke and Brandon Jones starting back there. I just don't see Caden making any noise because he's not from this coaching regime,
coming back from that injury,
and he's injured as well. Yes.
Yep.
But yeah, it'll. I'm excited to see those two back there.
Yeah, with Caden Stearns, it's The play is great for Caden. It's just again, it's always an injury bug with the man, and even coming into next season, it's how coming off that injury, he's probably gonna not be playing for a while. May have to ease him back in, right? But we'll see. But yeah, that tandem of Jones and Locke, it's going to be good. It looks very promising. So, all right. Let's see. Oh, we got Todd Osendorf coming in with a super chat, $5 super chat. Thank you, Todd. He says, realistically, what pick range do you see Knicks being taken? So I would say, realistically, I'm going to say like round 2, probably in the range of, it could be anywhere between like 40 to about like 50 within that range. We're probably talking about that as far as the earliest. But I would say around 2, anywhere between pick 40, 50. I'd probably go up like around like maybe selection 45 overall or something like that. Well, again, would be kind of like a guess of where I think of where I see a team might be selecting him.
Yeah, I for me, the absolute highest would be somewhere between maybe like 25, 28, all the way down to, like you were saying, maybe around pick 40. Just really depends on how teams feel about him. And like I said, there's a lot of people who are very high on him in the media and fans as well. But as we know from years past, that doesn't always correlate to what NFL teams are thinking. Like when you hear, oh, this player's rising, oh, this player's falling, that's just the media and fans catching up with where the NFL really or possibly evaluates them.
Yep. Thank you, Todd, for that question. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd.
All righty. And got Mike Edel coming in with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Mike, for supporting us time and time again. We appreciate you, my guy. He says, hey, Ron, Dylan, and Broncos country. I watched an interview with Bo Nix on Colin Cowherd. I have better feelings about him now. Still wonder about arm strength. Manning definitely didn't have a strong arm. Yeah, I mean, I think I think with a lot of these quarterbacks, you worry about arm strength now, but you also see at some of these pro days and the combine how they can just chuck it down the field too. So it's I think to your point here, Mike. I do feel better about Bo Nix. Again, I'm coming around to seeing him more as the fit. Again, the more tape I'm watching, the more interviews and such I'm listening to. He's like I said, he's a stand-up, mature, respectable young guy, and I think that's definitely going to rise him up. And again, maybe that selection for the Broncos. I would say the arm strength, yeah. I mean, that can be somewhat of a concern for some of these lower tier quarterbacks, or tier 2, I should say, quarterbacks. But that shouldn't be the thing that catapults them up, right? It's like you just said, Manning may not have the strongest arm, but it's about the processing. It's about the cerebral. Can you read defenses? Can you switch things up at the line of scrimmage? Do you know what the defense is in? And how do you read your progressions? And I think, a lot of these teams are looking more at that. Well, we know Sean Payton is, because he mentioned that. And so I think you kind of have to look at it from that perspective, because just because a guy has, like a Joe Milton, right? We see at the combine, right? He can fling it, but I think there will be some concerns on, can he read defenses and can he process? Mm-hmm. And so I wouldn't worry so much about the arm strength. Yeah, it may be a tad bit concerning, but how can you process the information? How can you put these offensive weapons in a position to succeed? Looking at coverages, seeing who's open, things like that. I think that's more of what these teams are looking for when they're doing their scouting. But thank you for coming in.
Yeah, his arm strength, again, it's like it's a velocity thing, not like how far can this guy throw the ball, because you see, like, he can get those deep balls down there. It's just a matter of how quick does it get there, even on some of the intermediate passes. But yeah, you don't need an absolute cannon to succeed in this league. I see his processing and his and how he dissects the field brought up a lot, and I do wonder how much of that Oregon system, how much of that could translate to the NFL, because like you said, it's a lot of screens, and I know people get upset when you bring up the screens and short throws. That's just, obviously that's what he was asked to do, but it does inflate his completion percentage, in my opinion, and just how I'm just not sure how well that Oregon offense. It's not like a 1-to-1, like you're going from Oregon to Sean Payton, who has a complicated offense system. I'm not saying he can't do it. I think he can. I think he's a bright guy, but I think it's being a little overstated that he's just going to come in and bam, he's going to plug and play sort of thing.
Yeah, and I mean that's for any quarterback coming in from college, not just a Bo Nix. I mean, even Caleb Williams. I mean, coming in from as dynamic as he is, the NFL is just a much different game where it's much faster, much quicker. These guys are more physical at the line of scrimmage as well. So, just because you did have that, at Oregon or for Caleb purposes at USC, that doesn't mean that that's going to translate. And I think in the case of Bo Nix, you're right. And we don't know how that's going to translate. I mean, the thing is, it's obviously there are going to be some elements to what Nix ran in Sean Payton's scheme, but to what degree? Obviously you have to look at in the middle of the field. And again, we've seen Bo Nix do that at times, but it's like you're going to be called upon to do that more often, in the NFL, especially in this system. So again, there are a lot of things there when it comes to, processing and running the system. But yeah, I think Dylan and I agree in the sense of with the arm strength and the velocity. It's kind of a nice to have. I think it's one of those things that I think just a little bit overblown for me when it comes to scouting and looking at these quarterback prospects. So, but thank you for this. That's a great comment and question. We appreciate you coming in.
Thanks so much, Mike.
All righty.
And it looks like we have some more stars here from our good friend Phil.
Mr. Phil McLaughlin, thank you, sir, for coming in. We appreciate you, my guy. He says, "Good evening, Ron and Dylan. I kind of like signing Burt. He can play both right and left tackle. Should be a nice number 2. Hashtag Buckham. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life." What do you think on this one? How do you like the part signing there, Dylan?
Well, yeah, he's an all right tackle. There's a reason he was out on the market, but like I've mentioned before with previous offensive linemen that we brought in, or even current ones that we have, it seems like a project for Zach Strief, who's done an amazing job with his offensive line, despite some so-so quarterback play. But he could be someone that can be developed and turned into a swing tackle. I could absolutely see that. But yeah, pretty low risk, high reward signing.
Yeah, I agree. And again, Phil, thank you. I think that this is a nice pickup for Denver as well, and coming in being that swing, the versatility of doing right and left. It could be great because you could never really have too many of those guys, especially the development guys on the offensive line. So, coming in, Strife can come and help him develop. I think it's great as well, Phil. I think it's good. So, player with some potential, some upside. Let's see what happens. But thank you, Phil, for coming in with that. And let's see. Looks like we have Mike Edel coming back and with a $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I did really like it when Nick's talked about being on time and system instead of improvising, unless he has to. Yes, yes. And again, I didn't catch that part of the interview. I'm assuming he was talking about the interview, but I mean, it is evident out in tape where he does stay within system, within rhythm, within timing, and again, that, like I said before, that's something that Peyton appreciates as as a play caller. He wants his quarterback to kind of be in rhythm, and Bo Nix can do it. We've seen plays. I believe there were a few plays against. I think the ones that stand out to me when he was playing Washington, and something's not there. He runs, he takes off, or he'll scramble. Right, left, and right at the line of scrimmage, he'll throw a pass. Right, so we've seen some of those improvisational skills. Again, to your point here, Mike, when he has to do it. And again, that's good. You kind of have that in the back pocket as a quarterback. So it's good to know that that's there. But again, that most important piece is, staying on schedule and in rhythm, and, having your receivers kind of run those routes, making sure that they can get the ball open in space, yards after catch. So, but yeah, good point there, Mike.
Yeah. I definitely think he has his potential in this system, and like you said, the last improvising being a last resort, that is nice to have in your back pocket, especially with he's not like a freak athlete when it comes to running, but he's a pretty solid athlete. Deceptively quick for a quarterback, and he like I said before, he sounded very mature in the interview, and he came out of that looking very, very good. I just want to see it translate to the field in the NFL, because we have seen in college. I'm not trying to knock him. But it's a believe when I see it sort of thing. Maybe that's just because we've been scorned with quarterbacks for the past 8 or so years. So maybe I'm just a little gun shy on that. It's something that doesn't wow me necessarily.
Well, but then you also have to think about the Broncos have, outside of Paxton Lynch, who have they drafted?
They haven't taken big swings. That's true.
You're right. They haven't taken any big swings. So it's like, they at least they're doing it the way it's supposed to be done, of going in the draft. Sean Payton can handpick his guy and develop his guy. So I think you guys, Broncos fans, you should be hopeful that the approach has changed. Again, no more. Again, you saw that there was opportunity to go get somebody off the market, right? They could have gone getting a Ryan Tannehill or Sam Darnold. No, we have Stidham. Let's stick with Stidham, and then intend on drafting that quarterback so we can develop. But yeah. All right. Thank you, Mike, for coming in with that comment. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Mike.
All right. Let's see. Got a question here from Rodney Garcia. Thank you, Rodney, for coming in, my man. He says, if Brock Bowers is there at 12, would you guys get him or see the Broncos drafting him? Yes, I get him. I'm getting him. I'll worry about quarterback later. And this actually leads, I can go next on my on my final I guess re-signing here. Because that goes to tight end and Adam Troutman. I think with the Adam Troutman pick, pick up again, or the re-signing, it's you get what you pay for. I think with Troutman, he's okay. He comes in. He had about 12 starts, caught 22 passes, 204 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. I think some of it last year, with the quarterback play, Russ didn't really feature the tight end a lot. And I think Troutman's comes in, helps with blocking a bit. So I think with that, I give that I kind of give that re-signing Dylan a C. I'm just not. I've never really been the biggest Troutman guy. Again, I think obviously we know that the Broncos were banking on Dulcich to, just be available and show his potential. But that didn't happen last year, and again, that could happen this year, obviously with him coming back. But I guess it's good to kind of have somewhat of a sure thing at tight end. But I just wasn't the biggest fan of the Troutman re-signing. But I think, Ronnie, yes, just because of part of the reason what I said. If Brock Bowers is there at 12, I'm getting him just because what this guy can do overall. It's just lovely. It's just great to see him on film. I actually saw more. I watched more tape of him a few days ago, and as he's more than a capable blocker. Getting him out in space, I mean, he can just body you in space. Like the guy is massive. And I think he'll be a quarterback's best friend in the league. So I would say, yep, get Brock Bowers. If you can get maybe quarterback later, let's say Penix falls, which, as I was saying, maybe they're in the third, or maybe a Rattler in the third. That'll be a good approach as well. But yeah, long story short, if Bowers is there at 12, if I were the Denver Broncos, I'm getting him.
And man, I love Brock Bowers as well. And I think the further we've got into this process of just evaluating what positions Broncos could take, man, I don't know if I really want to tight end that high. And as much as I love him, man, I would feel more comfortable either trading back, or if we're staying at 12, taking maybe an edge, like a first, or I think Turner, depending on who's there. But God, he'd be awesome to see another stud tight end in the orange and blue, because we haven't had one of those for a long time. Since I guess the latest one would have been Owen Daniels, and he was kind of even on the downturn of his career, but he still played pretty great.
Well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as it pertains to the Adam Trautman signing, he's another guy. He's a body. He's been in the system before. It doesn't hurt to re-sign him necessarily. You're not going to be paying him big bucks. So, yeah, he's kind of there.
Yeah. Yep, just there, on the field sometimes open, sometimes just, running along,
Yeah, good. God, down on first contact as well. God,
yeah.
kills me.
All right. Let's see what else we got in the chat. We got Big Kid Rook coming in with a $1.99 super chat. I'm not familiar with the name here, but thank you, Big Kid, for coming in. We appreciate it, my man.
Yeah, that's a new name that I've seen. So thanks for coming in, man.
All right, and then we got Phil McLaughlin coming back in. Thank you, Phil. He says, guys, if we trade back, which I hope we do, will there still be a chance to pick up Latu, Robinson, or Verse? Yeah, I would say there will be a chance. Yeah, I think the way I see it, Dylan, I think out of these three, Verse goes first.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm kind of I think Latu goes after Verse and then Robinson, although from what I've seen, I would do the opposite. Because Sharp Robinson, yeah, he's a freak. Yeah, I saw some highlights of him and he's good. But yeah, I think, Phil, if we do trade back, I would say Latu and Robinson probably would be there for the Broncos to select.
Yeah, any of these guys would be a great option in a trade back. I do think Verse, depending on how far back you go, Verse might be gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other two, Latu, his medicals came out clear. I'm really not worried about those at this point. And yeah, Chop Robinson's another dynamic pass rusher. We need someone else on the edge someone to take the lead in that room, man. It's just a bunch of number twos right now.
Yep. But yeah, Phil, thank you for coming in with that question there. We appreciate it, my man. All right, let's see who else we got. Got Gary Palmer coming in with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you, Gary. We appreciate you coming in, my guy. He says, "Hi guys, I like Brock, but I think they will trade back if they don't trade up." Yeah. So again, I highly, and again, thank you, Gary. I highly doubt the Broncos are going to trade up. I just think, again, let me say this: if one of those top 4 quarterbacks start to fall, then you can see potentially that trade up. Let's say 8 or 9, maybe. If they fall 8, let's say Drake May or JJ McCarthy is there 8, 9, you may see the Broncos maybe attempt to trade up. But if those 4 are gone, yeah, a trade back is more than likely. And again, with that trade back, the Broncos are probably going to want to get, and they probably will get that pick up that second round. And I think with that, it's probably going to be addressing edge. So again, if they do, again, this is what I'm thinking, guys. If they do trade back, it's going to be addressing edge probably with that later round pick or that mid to late round pick, depending on where they trade back to, and then picking up Bo Nix in the second round.
Yeah, I think Sean might want to trade up, but I don't think he can. I just think that spot you're going to have to get up to is number 4.
Yeah.
And you already got the Vikings.
Yeah.
And they got 2 first-round picks. And, yeah, it just doesn't seem realistic. And there's no one else worth trading up for other than a quarterback, especially for a rebuilding team. But, yeah, I could see him move back and like the edge rushers we discussed before, or depending on what's their offensive tackle. Maybe they're like, hey, we could get a day 2 pick for Bowles and pick up a guy here. But yeah, maybe a guy opposite Patrick Surtain. There's a lot of ways that could go depending on how far they move back. Like if you get towards the end of the first round, I'm even happy with taking a wide receiver there, depending on which guys are still there, like a Brian Thomas, although he's rising, or A.D. Mitchell.
Or an Xavier Worthy.
Get that speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, you mentioned that there are a couple different directions here that the Broncos could go. Yeah, you don't even count out wide receiver. That's a good one. Because they're going to be a lot of them are going to be there as well, around that the high teens and low 20s. I'm a big Brian Thomas fan. Xavier Worthy, Donnie Mitchell. Those are some good guys. So again, that could be on the table as well. Yeah.
And you got to think about all the big money those guys are getting these days, the top wide receivers. So it's not a bad idea if you like one, take one early. And obviously there's talent throughout the draft, but if there's a guy you really think could fit and be a difference maker on this team, I don't think you hesitate to take one.
Definitely. Thank you, Gary, again for coming in. Let's see who else we have in the chat. Let's look at the time here. Oh, we have 49 minutes. We have a few more minutes here, guys, and then we're going to start wrapping it up. Again, guys, no Mr. Producer again tonight, so it's just us. Oh, we got String Guy coming in. This is a good comment. Thank you, String Guy. He says, Dylan and Ron, how about Joe Alt at 12 if the top QBs are off the board? What say you, Dylan? What do you think about Joe Alt?
I'd be surprised if he was there at 12.
Yeah.
I think you could see a team like the Titans taking there pretty early, or since the Falcons, actually, I'm not sure what their tackle situation is looking like right now, but you never know. They could take one. If the Jets decide not to take a Bowers or a receiver, maybe they're like, hey, we got a rental for Tyron Smith for a year, and then we can draft a guy like Joe Alt, and he could sit behind him because he has been injury prone as well. But yeah, I it's just hard for me to see him being there. But if he is there at 12, I would not be opposed to taking him.
Yeah, I'm a big Joe Alt fan. I think you and I agree on it would be nice for the Broncos to have, but I think we may not share the brain on maybe at 12. I think, as great as Joe Alt is, this tackle class is pretty good, pretty deep. And I think the Broncos, I think if no one's there at 12, they trade back. They can, maybe look at offensive tackle later on in the first round as a possibility. Or if they get that second round pick, looking at offensive tackle there with edges first, right? Again, as you mentioned, there are a few different ways the Broncos can go, but I don't know. I think for me, it would be nice to get a tackle. I just don't want to tackle at pick 12 because I think for me, tackle is the offensive line is a low key, sneaky need, but I think for me, it's quarterback and edge. I think those need one of those, or Brock Bowers. One of those three needs to be, the first pick for Denver.
And you might be able to get a decent amount of picks too if Joe Alt is there at 12, and you don't maybe I don't want to take him here. I know there's some teams who really need offensive tackle. The league's starving for him, so if maybe you could trade back if he's sitting there.
Yep. Big answering guy. Thank you for coming in with that comment. We appreciate it. All righty. Let's see who else we have. Just perusing the chat, guys. See if there are any other comments. See if we missed anyone here.
I'm seeing a lot of talk of tanking going on in the chat. I think this team isn't tanking. Teams don't tank. I think that's more like a fan-driven thing. They might assemble a roster that's not going to be super competitive, but it's hard to see with this is people's jobs, and then you have 53 individuals on a team. It's just hard to see, and no one loses on purpose per se.
Yeah, and I think tanking, for what? I mean, we saw that there were people were talking about tanking even last season when the Broncos got off to that horrific start. And it's like, you want to tank and try to get a quarterback, but who's to say that quarterback that you do get number one overall will even pan out? So you have to also consider, guys, the tanking philosophy for me just doesn't, I'm not a fan of it, just because it's, you're tanking for this proposed number one overall pick or this elite prospect, and who's to say that prospect is going to pan out? And Denver, Sean Payton did the best he could to kind of turn this team around last year, because it was headed toward that way. It was 1-5. What's going on here? And Broncos are cruising for that top 3 pick, and so. But you can see that with the right coach in place, that's not on Sean Payton's mind to tank. That's never in any coach's mind.
No.
So I think, you're right in that. I think it's a fan-driven thing as opposed to what the head coach and what's best for the team. The head coach wants and what's best for the team.
You can't build a culture that way either. Like, it's just, especially, I mean, obviously Sean Payton, and he's been a really good head coach for years, but you can't just come into a new organization and do that and if they were to tank, it would have been this last year because just of how glowingly Sean Payton spoke of Caleb Williams, he would have traded off Judy Sutton Bowles at the trade deadline. You know what I mean? Like it just does not compute.
Yeah. All righty, let's see what else we have. Oh, we got Phil coming back in. Thank you, Phil. He says, "What do you guys think is going to happen with?" I'm assuming you're mentioning Bowles. So yeah, I guess, Dylan, what are you thinking on the Garrett Bowles front? Do you think maybe doing draft time he's traded, or maybe they just decided, hey, let's just keep him. We're going to get a new quarterback. We want to surround him with the best protection we can, so he'll stay for the 2024 season. What are your thoughts there? Thank you, Phil.
It's hard to say. I think I believe he had some guarantees kick in last Sunday, which makes me lean towards, hey, maybe they're trying to keep him. But like we were talking earlier, if the Broncos trade down, they're like, oh, hey, there's a great tackle prospect we like after this trade down. Maybe we take him and then we can ship Bowles out, or even before a trade down. I think you could net maybe a third or at the high end a second round pick for him, and that would be pretty beneficial. But I'm kind of not sure which way I lean right now. I don't think there's any real indication that he's leaving, but at the same time, I could definitely see it happening on day 1 or day 2 of the draft.
Yeah, this is a good question, Phil. It's hard to say. I think I lean more toward what Dylan's saying. It's going to come down to how, if they really want an extra pick, like in the second round or maybe in a later round, and if Bowles is bait, trade him away.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could also see him, staying through that 2024 season, just because, again, you got to have that protection for your young quarterback. So, I think I'm going to say he does stay, but again, I wouldn't be surprised in the draft if the Broncos decide to cut ties with him just to pick up like another pick in a round. So, but we'll see.
Yeah,
that's a good question. All right, and then String Guy, I want to see, because String Guy mentioned that he had a few comments here, so just want to make sure we get to you here. Draft worthy and let he and Mims run go routes every play with Milton as QB. Yeah, that's the Worthy. Yeah, Xavier Worthy, String Guy. Yeah, he's gonna be good. I mean, again, I think I did watch him even a lot at Texas, and even outside of the speed, we know he's dynamic when it comes to the speed, but he's just talented overall. And having him with Mims and Sutton, and it has the shape or the potential to become something special. So yeah, but the Milton as quarterback, I think you're thinking, having Milton just launch those balls down the field so Worthy.
Yeah. Are we bringing him in on Hail Marys, maybe?
Yeah, those Hail Marys, having that arm of his. And again, as fascinating as that sounds, it's again, we just have to see, with Milton, it's I don't know how high he's going to get drafted. I'm thinking him maybe
day 3 sometime. Right?
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe 5th round, 4th round for him, probably at the earliest, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting though that you bring this up. It would be fun to be must see TV. I'll put it that way.
Wasn't there? I might be remembering this wrong, but there was a game a while back. I believe when they went to throw a Hail Mary, they had Paxton Lynch come in and throw it instead of Simeon. I might be remembering that wrong, but just because he had the stronger arm and they were so far down the field, I might be remembering that wrong. Maybe that was a dream, but that's kind of how I would envision. Say if like we have Stidham starting, and you have Milton, it's like, oh well, we need to get the ball down there. But
Yeah.
that'd be a fun little scenario.
Yeah, and we figured you were joking there, String Guy. We just wanted to laugh with you. But I mean, I would say though, I mean, I know you're joking on this, but all jokes aside, again, that would be, fascinating. Again, especially those two wide receivers. Again, we saw some flashes from Mims last year. I'm still high on Mims, still a Mims fan, and Xavier Worthy, man, just imagine him in space, just with that speed. It's so again, it would be interesting, very fun to watch. All righty, guys. Let's see. All right, just looking to see. I think we've covered about everyone here. Just looking through one last time. All righty. Think we covered. So that's going to end our show tonight. Again, guys, thank you all for joining. Man, Dylan, this hour just goes by so quick. Man, it's all you guys again. Thank you guys for coming in with your questions, your comments. It's always fun talking with all of you. Make sure you like, subscribe, share on all the platforms. Check out the website, milehighhuddle.com. Dylan and I, rest with the other members, are posting content on there. There's something on there every day, so make sure you check that out. And then we will see you guys next week. Dylan, did you have any parting words for Broncos Country?
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us again. It's great to see the same faces in every Saturday, and even some new ones. And you guys give us a lot of thought-provoking questions, and you keep us moving along.
Yeah, that's for sure. These are very interesting questions. It makes us pause for a bit to see how we want to respond. But again, we love them. We love them. It gets the juices flowing. So again, guys, thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you all next week. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.